Hello guys, Vanessa Montilla for Verbs Institute. Today we're going to talk about Spanish verbs of change. Let's do it. We have several ways to express changes. We have the verb quedarse, ponerse, volverse, and hacerse. At the beginning they can be a little bit confusing because we can translate all of them as to become. Let's see a few examples. Marta se hizo rica. Martha became rich. Here we're using hacerse and the translation is like to become. One more example. Pedro se volvió loco. Pedro became crazy. Here we're using volverse and the translation would be to become. One more example. Laura se puso enferma. Laura became ill. Here we're using ponerse and the translation is to become. Julia se quedó soltera. Julia became single. In this one, we're using quedarse. And again, the translation is to become. Then the question is, why do we say hacerse rico, volverse loco, ponerse enfermo, or quedarse soltero? Well, let's take a deeper look to each one of them and let's see if I can give you a few tips for you to understand when to use each one of them. Hacerse. Let's start for understanding that we have hacer and we have hacerse, that is the reflexive one. Hacer is to do or to make. Let's see one example. Javier hizo una silla muy hermosa. So Javier made a beautiful chair. Then hacerse would be to become. Javier se hizo carpintero el año pasado. Javier became a carpenter last year. It is important to understand the relationship between these two verbs. If we take a look to the second sentence, Javier se hizo carpintero el año pasado, it means that he made a carpenter of himself. We use the verb hacerse to indicate changes that often are intentional. It usually works with adjectives that we will use also with ser. For example, Pedro se hizo doctor hace 10 años. Manuel se hizo más fuerte después de entrenar varios años. Marta y María se harán ricas con sus inversiones. Let's take a look now to volverse. This one also should be treated different than volver. Let's see the meaning of them. Volver, to return, to come back, to go back. Like in Ruth siempre vuelve a casa muy tarde. Volverse is to become. Darío a veces se vuelve loco cuando está cansado. Darío sometimes becomes crazy when he's tired. There are two open possibilities with volverse that don't apply to hacerse. Volverse doesn't have a strong indication of the change being intentional or non-intentional, but it is often understood as unintentional. Also, it could indicate that the change had been repeated. Let's review the example in the future tense. Darío se volvió loco anoche después de beber mucho tequila. In this case, without any context, a lot of people think that it was unintentional and that it was just because of the too much drinking that he became crazy. Additionally, we can assume that the situation would repeat in the future if Darío drinks tequila again. Volverse is often used with adjectives that also work with the verb ser and could be considered negative. For example, débil, gordo, tonto, pobre, aburrido. One example. Tu hermano se volvió aburrido después de graduarse. Your brother became boring after graduating. Ponerse. We use this verb to indicate changes of mood. Very similar to the verb to get. For example, Laura se puso enferma. It could be translated as Laura became sick, but often it can be translated also as Laura got sick. We can say that ponerse is going to work with adjectives that work with the verb estar. Sometimes could work also with ser. A few examples. Felicia siempre se pone muy enojada cuando llamamos tarde. Felicia always gets angry when we call her late. Ayer, Jairo y Felipe se pusieron felices cuando recibieron el premio. Yesterday, Jairo and Felipe got very happy when they received the prize. María se está poniendo muy fuerte con ese entrenamiento. María is getting very strong with that training. Also could be María is becoming very strong with that training. Quedarse. Quedar and quedarse have multiple uses. Today we're going to focus on the purposes of change. Quedar will have the meaning of to have something left and to remain or stay. Quedarse will indicate to be left in a certain mood when it is followed by an adjective. Let's see some examples. Saúl y Matilde se quedaron en el hotel. Saúl and Matilde stayed in the hotel. Ellos se quedaron solos en la fiesta. They were left alone at the party. That's indicating that they had company before. Pilar siempre se queda nerviosa cuando su hijo sale a bailar. Pilar always becomes nervous when her son goes dancing. It is indicating that she might be calm before he goes out and after he comes back. Pedrito se quedaba aburrido cuando no lo llevaban al parque. Pedrito used to get bored when they didn't take him to the park. That was all for today, guys. I will be here next week with more lessons. Ciao!